God, we missed half the class. Okay, somebody has to take responsibility to help this old man remember to record these classes. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Where do we find the recorded classes in Facebook?
Mataji is in Facebook as well as my YouTube channel that I send the link to every 1 or 2 weeks. I send to all of you.
There are the recorded classes.
They are recorded, yes, all of them. It's about 70 plus they recorded.
They don't erase by themselves.
No. Once you put it on YouTube, at least as far as I know, they don't erase. Ashok Krishna Prabhu is our technical expert. What do you think, bro?
They don't get erased.
Okay.
On Facebook as well as YouTube. No.
Okay, so Mother, you're fine. Yeah, they're there.
So what's the name? What the heading?
Rupa Nuga, just look for, under YouTube, look for Rupa Nuga Das channel. And in Facebook, is Ravi Singh, and you'll see all the videos.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'll keep going. Now, a very interesting story Krishna is going to tell Uddhava. And the story is about a sannyasi, a mendicant sannyasi from a place called Avanti. So it's known as Avanti Brahmin. And Krishna is telling the story of this Brahmin, Avanti Brahmin, to give us an example of how one should tolerate the disturbances and offenses created by, what you'd call evil persons. And he starts by saying that, we all know how hurtful the harsh words of other people can be. They can actually pierce our heart even more severely than the arrows can, the real arrows. He said, however, this mendicant Brahmin from Avanti, even while he was being attacked by, Krishna uses the term wicked men, he considered this attack by these people to be simply the consequence of his own karma. And he tolerated it. Prabhupada says, he tolerated with utmost sobriety, which means no reaction on the face. And Krishna says, previously, before he became sannyasi, this Brahmin was a very rich merchant, but he was very greedy. He was miserly. He was, he got angry very quickly. As a result, his family, the wife, the sons, the daughters, the other relatives, servants, they were basically not given any kind of enjoyment to have. And basically, eventually or gradually, they became completely unaffectionate towards him, to put it mildly. Basically, they resented his behavior, they resented his money, and frankly, they stopped caring for him. No affection, no love in their heart for this person, even though he was a father or husband or brother, whatever. And then in due course of time, the thieves, the family members, and of course, God's plan took away all his wealth. And he found himself without any property, abandoned by everyone. And gradually in that state, he actually developed a sense of, or I should say, deep sense of renunciation. And therefore, he became a sannyasi. And then he started thinking. He said, I I made a very great amount of effort to earn this money, an even greater amount of effort to preserve this money or wealth. And then with preservation and earning came the fear of losing it, anxiety about losing it, and confusion about what's right, what's wrong. And because of this wealth, there have been so many unwanted things in my life. Thieves have tried to steal my money. There's been violence. There's been all sorts of lying and deception and lust and anger and pride and disagreement and hatred and distrust and conflict, even attachment to other women, gambling, intoxication, all those kind of things. They've been there. And actually, you can relate to that. A lot of very rich people go through that. Gambling, intoxication, women, men, whatever, all sorts of lust, anger, and pride. Very rich people, some of their common characteristics. But when he understood, the Brahman understood that the wealth is the cause of all this. His conclusion was that the fact that I have lost all this property and this wealth, it means that somehow or the other, the Supreme Lord is satisfied with me. He's happy with me. He said, only because the Lord is pleased with me for some reason, all these apparently unfavorable events in my life have happened. So he was actually grateful that now a sense of detachment is arising in his heart. And he said, this will deliver my soul to the Lord. Because now I have nothing. And so with that thought process, in that condition of poverty and a mood of renunciation, he determined to engage the rest of his life in the worship of Lord. And he accepted the three Dandi Sannyasi order of Varnashram. And then he will, as I was saying, he's a mendicant. So, trying to remember the Sanskrit word for that. Paribrajak Acharya. Yes, Paribrajak. Paribrajak Acharya, there's three types of sannyas. Kuti Chakra, Paribrajak, and Paramhansa. And so Paribrajak are the ones who are traveling from place. They don't stay anywhere for more than 2 or 3 days. Anyway, so he became that. And so he entered different villages to beg for charity. But he found that people would harass him, disturb him, even throw stones at him or other garbage at him, and made all sorts of comment. But he simply tolerated all this, and he remained firm in his determination to just serve the Lord. He didn't deviate at all. He remained fixed in his spiritual devotional practice. And he sang a song that is known as Bhikshu Geet. Bhikshu Geet. Bhikshu means, anybody knows what Bhikshu means?
Who begs?
Yes. Bhikshu is a beggar. Correct.
Beggar.
So the purport of the song, that the Geet that he did, is basically like this. He said, neither humans nor the demigods, the soul, the planets, the karma, time, none of them are the cause of one's happiness or distress. So let me see if I can repeat this. Demigods, planets, they talk about an alignment of planets, other human beings, karma, all the time. They don't cause the happiness and distress. Rather, the mind alone is the cause of happiness or distress, because it is the mind that makes the spirit soul wander through different stages in the cycle of material existence. Excuse me. And mind is the one that if it is not your friend, it'll give you all sorts of problems. In the 6th chapter, I think it's text 4. How does it go? Naudhret atmana atmana. Sorry. Naudhret atmana atmanam. Na atmanam avsadayet. How does it go? Some like whatever the Sanskrit of mind is. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I can't remember. It says the mind is the friend and mind is the enemy in that particular verse. And he said, if the mind is enemy, which is the case with most of us, it makes us go or rather wander in the material existence from one birth to another birth to another birth. Brahmanda Pritikano, Bhagavanji. If someone's lucky, it's different. Otherwise, the cycle of going around and around, as the famous philosopher Dharmendra would say, we all keep piecing and piecing and piecing and piecing. It's going around and around and around. And he said, therefore, the mind must be brought under control. And he said, that is the real purpose of charity, religiosity, to bring the mind under control. A person who has a controlled mind has no need for any other process. And for a person who's incapable of fixing his mind or controlling his mind, any process is of no practical use. You can meditate all you want, you can do charity all you want, you can do all sorts of religious activities, it doesn't matter. If the mind is not in control, it's not fixed on Krishna, they have no use. And he said, the false ego binds the soul, which is transcendental, spiritual. It binds it to material sense objects. And that's the false ego, as you know. And these things keep us in the material world. And he said, I am determined to bring myself over this insurmountable ocean of material existence. And I know I can do that by rendering service to the lotus feet of the Lord with perfect faith and mind totally fixed unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So basically, he was establishing the point that the mind can be completely controlled only when our intelligence is focused on the lotus feet of the Lord. Remember the hierarchy? Krishna said, consciousness, intelligence, mind, and then the senses. So that's what he's saying. When intelligence is focused on Krishna, or Krishna's lotus feet, then mind is under the control of intelligence. When the mind is focused, when the intelligence is focused on material things, then the mind takes over, it controls the intelligence, which tells us what is right and what is wrong. So I'm going to pause again, see if it made any sense. If you understood, otherwise, please ask questions or clarifications. So it's crystal clear? Or so muddy you don't even want to ask?
Yeah,
Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, who were telling?
Go ahead with the question. Otherwise, Prabhuji, I will ask. I know. So this everything happened in the same life, like he was rich and he was robbed, and
Correct.
then he become one life.
Correct.
The realization came in the same life. Yeah.
Correct. Usha Mataji, yes, go ahead.
So in this Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6.
Sorry, Mataji, you're breaking up a lot.
And
Usha Mataji?
sorry,
You're
can you hear
breaking
me,
up a lot.
Prabhu?
I can hear you now, yes.
Oh, yeah. So this almost translation was given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1 and Text 9. where it says, and same as into the nectar of devotion, it also is repetitive actually.
Sorry, what is?
That instructions that who doesn't control his mind
Oh yeah, so that's
cannot
Bhagavad
focus.
Gita chapter 6, text 3. Oh, sorry, text 4.
And also isn't the same thing is in the Bhagavatam as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Multiple places.
Yes. The
Right.
person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind demands the action of anger and the urges of the tongue,
That
right?
is nectar of instruction, Mataji.
That is nectar of instruction, yes.
Correct. The very
But it
first
is,
one.
isn't it the interrelated, all of them?
They're all related, yes.
Yes, right. I'm right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much,
Sure.
Prabhuji.
Sure. Anyone else?
Prabhuji, I want to ask a little bit clarification. In this chapter, I have read, I don't know, I think 22nd or 23rd verse. It's written that the human birth is better than demigods. So can you clear it a little bit? How come human birth is better than the demigods? It's
Well-
better than the demigods, ghosts, spirits, and that we understand. But how come it's better than the demigods?
It depends upon your definition of better. So, for example, if your definition of better is enjoyment, long life, great time, and all sorts of facilities available, then demigod is much better. If your definition of better is to become closer to Krishna, have opportunities to serve Krishna, have an easy process to serve Krishna, have easier to go to Golok Vrindavan Dham, then human birth. As a matter of fact, the process for realizing Krishna is so simple in the age of Kali, which is simply chanting Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram.
Ram, Hare Hare. So, if that's the goal, that's what your definition of better is, then definitely it's better to be a human being, because the demigods are so involved in self gratification. They don't have time to chant and do pure service. They go to Krishna only when they need help.
Yes.
And so it's very difficult for them. So they actually feel envious of human beings who can simply, by the process of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, go back home to Godhead. Demigods cannot do that. So in that sense, human beings are better.
Okay, yeah. It's a matter of thoughts.
Thoughts. It depends upon what your definition of better is.
Better is.
It's like, for example, you ask a very rich karmi person, what is the purpose of life? He said, make more money, enjoy more, right? Sadhe naal rahoge to ash karoge. That's his philosophy. Khao piyo mauj karo mitro, right? Have fun, a great time, right? That's their purpose of life. If you ask a jnani, what's the purpose of your life? They will get cessation from material existence, right? And merge in the Brahman effulgence. But none of them appeal to devotee. So that's my point. It depends upon who you are, what your definition is.
What is your definition? Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, then I'll keep going.
Prabhuji.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. I'm.
Oh, Puji Gupta Mataji, go ahead.
Yeah. Prabhuji, you ask, I'm not a devotee,
I'm sorry?
right?
I'm
You
not a
ask,
devotee.
I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
a
correct.
devotee. But how you find I am devotee, or what's the definition of the devotee and the devotional service?
What is the definition of a devotee? Is that your question?
No. Prabhuji, you ask, I'm not a devotees. We are demigods.
Huh? Say again, Mataji?
No. You ask, I'm not a devotees.
I am not a devotee. Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah. Why should I found give I am a devotee?
Sorry, Mataji, I cannot hear the last part of the question. What is that?
What is the definition of the devotees? Mother?
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So you want to know?
If we do the all all work of that like devotees. How can I found I am a devotee?
How can I determine if I'm a devotee? Is that a question?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so let's first understand the definition of a devotee. Right now, the different stages of devotee. So we have to know what kind of devotee are we talking about. So there's a first class devotee, second class devotee, third class devotee. So there's different definitions there. Then there is a generic definition that a person who performs devotional service is a devotee. But then what is devotional service? And then what are the phases or stages or levels of devotional service? Right? So it depends upon so many things. So let me try to answer some parts of it. I may not be able to answer all of it. So first of all, as I said, the simple definition of a devotee is a person who performs devotional service. Now, Lord Chaitanya was asked that question, and he said, anybody who's taken the name of Krishna even once in his life or her life is a devotee. So that's one definition. Then Rupa Goswami in Nectar Devotion says that a person who engages all his senses in the service of Krishna is a devotee. But then he says, but the person who is able to live in the material world, interact with material people, use material things, but use them all in the service of Krishna, and who's always favorable to Krishna is the pure devotee.
Very well.
Right? And then Lord Chaitanya said, the process to become a pure devotee is sixfold. Accept everything that's favorable to devotional service. It's like Ekadashi,
Yes.
deity worship, going to pilgrimages, associating with devotees, observing Ekadashi, all those kind of things are serving Tulsi Maharani. That's all favorable activity. First thing. Second thing, the opposite is reject whatever is unfavorable. So not following the four regulative principles is unfavorable. Associating with non-devotees is unfavorable. Right? Not going to the temples, all those kind of things. So the second part is reject what is not favorable. Third, firm absolute faith that Krishna will protect me under all circumstances. Krishna is my protector. Absolutely firm, like Prahlad Maharaj. You want to put me under the feet of the elephants? You want elephants stomp on my body? You want to take me to the fire? You want to throw me in a pit of snakes and scorpions? Go ahead. Make my day. But I'm going to depend upon Krishna. So that kind of firm faith. Hiranyakashipu is standing in front of with sword out, and he's not afraid at all. Why? My Krishna will save me.
Very good.
Fourth point, Krishna is my guardian. What does a guardian do?
Guardian is a parents, like
Sorry?
parents.
No, but what does he do? What does a guardian do?
Guardian do the take
Sorry?
care. Take care.
Yeah, take care is one, that's maintenance. What else? What does what else?
The monitor.
Monitor, yes. What else? There's one thing, very main thing that I want to hear. As a parent, what do you
Protect.
do to your child?
Protect.
Guide you.
Okay. Okay, protect, but there's
They
something.
guide you.
Huh?
Guidance.
Yes.
Provide you with guidance.
Guidance, absolutely. That's what Krishna, he's guiding us. He'll tell me what path to take. He'll tell me when I'm wrong. He'll tell me what to study. He'll tell me who to associate with. He'll tell me how to serve. So he's my guardian. He's going to maintain me. He's going to guide me. He's going to protect me, all those kind of things. That's the fourth thing. Fifth thing is that I shall be humble. Without humility, you cannot do devotional service. Forget it. Those of us who are puffed up cannot be a devotee. And if they try, Krishna will not accept them. Krishna can tolerate lust, he can tolerate greed, he can tolerate anger. He will not tolerate pride. And final, the most important is, I have no desire other than Krishna's desire.
Yes, Prabhu.
I have no other desire than satisfying Krishna's desire. Karishye vachanam tava. This is what Arjuna said at the end of Bhagavad Gita. That was his way of saying, I'm surrendered. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. I'll follow all your instructions. That's called Atmaniveda. So Lord Chaitanya gave the process, the sixfold process of becoming a pure devotee, of being a surrendered devotee. So we have to ask ourselves, where are we in all that? And then there's another definition which talks about the three levels of devotees. One is called Kanishtha or third class, which says, I believe in the deity. I worship the deity, but I don't care about anybody else. I don't care about the devotees. I don't care about anything else. It's just me and the deity of Krishna. That's third class. Second class is the one who says, I worship the deity, I consider it to be God, and I care for the devotees of the Lord. And the first class devotee says, I worship the deity, I care for the devotees, and I am the servant of every one of them. So that's another definition. Okay, so my point is that we have to ask ourselves honest question, give honest answer. Where are we? And without trying to be humble, I can give you the answer from my own. I'm about as low as they get, and I'm not trying to be humble. There's such a long way to go. Such a long way to go. But I'm convinced that it doesn't matter how long I have to go, how far I have to go. If I stay on this path, I'll get there. It's like if we start walking from Toronto to Montreal, as long as I don't stop somewhere, or I don't take a direction, start walking towards Vancouver, I'll get to Montreal guaranteed. And that is my point. As long as we stay on this path, we're guaranteed to get there. And that's what keeps me going, Mother. Sabbat. That's what keeps me going. One day I'll get there. So my effort is to stay on the path. And believe me, there are a lot of distractions, a lot of disturbances, a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Hindrances.
Sorry?
Hindrances.
Hindrances and allurement. ये माया बहुत तगड़ी है. So it's always constantly acting upon us, and we're constantly fighting it. And a lot of times losing, but we have to get up and walk again. Because if we stop walking, we'll never walk. So it doesn't matter how many times you fall down, but get up and start walking again. And that's all I can ask all of you. That's what I try to do. I fall down, I am fallen, but I try to keep walking. Even if I'm stumbling as I walk, if I'm not walking straight, even if I'm not walking fast, I try to walk. Okay, Mataji, does that make sense?
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
You give them more devotional service answer. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
Make full sense.
Thank you, bro. Anybody else? Okay. Then I'll move on to the next chapter. Now, Krishna is explaining to Uddhava how to stop the mind from being bewildered. And he's talking about science of Sankhya philosophy. So using the Sankhya philosophy, how to stop the mind from becoming bewildered. And so Sankhya philosophy, as you know, is an analytical study of spirit and matter, but it also talks about creation and maintenance and annihilation quite a bit. So here Krishna is basically describing the process of creation. And I know it's very confusing, and I know you've heard it many times and you still find it confusing, and I don't blame you for it because it is confusing. And here I am trying to pretend to be a teacher, but I don't understand it fully. So I'll tell you what I understand. That may not be enough. So Krishna says that at the time of creation, the supreme truth or the absolute truth separates into two things. The seer, that's S-E-E-R, which means consciousness of personality, and the seen, S-E-E-N, seen, which means material nature. So you have the seer, which is the consciousness, and the seen, which is the material nature. Material nature, as you know, comprises of three modes of matter. And when it's agitated by the controlling male factor, then all these things are produced. Starting with Mahat Tattva, which has in it the consciousness and the activity. So you have the seer and the seen there. From these, from Mahat Tattva, comes the false ego. False ego actually comes in three aspects, which is what the material nature is made of. The aspect of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now, I don't know how many of you can visualize the slide I had shown many times before with a big circle and with layers. So think of the first layer after the Mahat Tattva, the false ego. So false ego, what is that? It's basically the combination of soul and the body. It's just that it's an illusory combination because it doesn't exist all the time. But it's an illusory combination of the soul, which is eternal, and the body, sorry, I should say eternal and cognizant or conscious, and body, which is temporary and unconscious. So it's a very funny combination. So from false ego in the mode of ignorance, sound is generated, along with the sense of hearing and the sky, where it rests. Sky is the medium for sound. Then the sensation of touch comes, and the air and the sense of touch is generated. And so on and so forth. You go from sky to air to fire to water to earth. I don't want to go into too much detail. You may already recall that, but it get too confusing anyway. So just remember that, form is generated, from which the fire is generated, from which the taste is generated, from which the water is generated, from which the fragrance is generated, from which the earth is generated. Okay, and I'm still talking about the 5 subtle elements. These are not the gross elements yet. And then you have the senses, which are basically engaged in activity, and they are created from false ego in the mode of passion. And the mind and the demigods are created from the false ego in mode of goodness. So from the conglomeration of all this is created what we call the universal egg. There's trillions and trillions of them. And then the Lord, in the form of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, enters, actually basically just below the universe, floating in the in the Garbha ocean. And the whole egg is floating in the causal ocean. Is that clear? I mean, that's very old concept. So I'm assuming everybody knows about causal ocean and Garbha ocean. Yes or no? Or is that
Yes.
Yeah.
okay? All right. So basically, that's what's going on during the time of creation. And then he says that from my navel as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, a lotus arises on which sitting Lord Brahma.
Brahmaji.
Now Brahma is invested with which mode?
Passion.
Passion. And he executes austerities and penances, because of which he is able to create all these planets and bodies. Right. Then, in that universe, there's a region called heaven for demigods, the lower spaces for ghostly spirits, earth for the human beings, and the other entities also, like animals, etc. And then you have 3 planetary systems, Bhu, Bhuva, and Swa. Above that are the places of advanced sages, and lower than that is the 7 planets of the demons, the serpents, and so on and so forth. The goals achieved by activities based on the modes of material nature are all material, and therefore they keep us in the material world. However, the destination of the yogis who perform all sorts of yogas or severe austerity and stay in the renounced order of life, they go to upper planets, which are Maharlok, Janalok, Taplok, and Satyalok. Okay? Now, the goal of devotional service is none of these. Devotees don't want to go to any of these, in the topmost planets. Where do they want to go? They want to go to Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan. Okay? Whatever exists in the universe is simply a product of the combination of material nature and the Lord. So just like creation goes from subtle to gross, when it's annihilation time, it goes from gross to subtle. And everything is finished, and all the souls reside in the abdomen of Lord Narayan or Mahavishnu. And everything material disappears into Mahat Tattva, which disappears into Pradhan during the time of total pralay. And that is the science of Sankhya. Krishna says the person who meditates on Sankhya philosophy, his mind does not become bewildered. And the reason is that all the doubts are removed and all the bondages with the material world are cut off by the Sankhya philosophy. Just understanding the process of creation and annihilation. So I'm going to pause again and see if there are any questions or comments. I hope if I'm not too confusing, I tried to stay very high level.
Yeah, Prabhuji, that you started with this 24th chapter, starting with mind focusing, right? Focusing of the mind.
Correct.
And Lord described all that creation. And at the end, you mentioned that one who focus on the creation, his mind is not disturbed. So that link, link I cannot understand.
So say what's the question?
The link, the
link,
creation,
yes.
the understanding creation, how the mind becomes a peaceful,
so
not disturbed. Yeah.
So Sankhya philosophy talks about creation and destruction, annihilation. So basically what it means is that a person who understands creation and annihilation also understands that everything in the material world is temporary. Right? And by doing the temporary, you will always remain temporary. You actually become permanently temporary because you'll always have a body. gross body, along with subtle body. So therefore, you'll never get out. And that's why the bewilderment stops, because you say, hey, nothing belongs to me, everything's temporary, it's here today, tomorrow it will be gone. So the bewilderment goes away.
Yeah, yeah. It makes
Very
sense.
scientific.
Prabhuji.
Very scientific.
Yeah, thank you. Prabhuji.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay, so if there are no other questions, then it's time. It's exactly 9:30 actually. So we'll stop here. Last chance to ask any questions or make any comments.
Prabhu, can you, can you repeat Radha Vinod Prabhu's answer again, please? That just now that you explained about
was-
knowing the creation and being peaceful.
What I was saying was that once we understand that creation happens, annihilation happens, all in cycles. And therefore, everything in the material world is temporary. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Once we understand the process, how the Lord is involved, how the material nature is involved, how the different three modes are involved, how they produce different things, different types of bodies, etc., we say, why get upset about this or that? Why become bewildered by this or that? It's all temporary anyway. It's here today, it will be gone tomorrow. So just understanding that and understanding the role of the Lord in that basically stops the mind from becoming bewildered. What does bewilderment mean? Think about this. What does bewilderment mean? I don't understand. I'm confused. I don't know why this is happening. Why is it not happening this way as opposed to that way? Those are the causes of bewilderment or symptoms of bewilderment. Right? They just go away.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. thank
Sure.
you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then everyone, Hare Krishna. Vancha
Hare
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavyo Namo Namah.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank
everyone.
you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you so much. Very nice.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.